at WLFE-DB.com for upcoming shows and so much more.
Hey everyone, it's Tuesday night again. You know what that means, don't you? It's time to join Mike and Kristie for another episode of Where's My Sage? A show hosted by a psychic medium and a guy on a quest to find Bigfoot. Who would have thought? Together, they will take you on all sorts of adventures, and not with lots of different people. Kristie even gives readings. It's time to sit back, get up and get ready. You can't sample the universe sitting down. Your hosts are waiting. Come on, let's go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Where's My Sage? I'm Mike with my co-host, Kristie London. How are you this evening, Kristie?
Besides hacking, blowing my nose, and being sunburned, I'm fantastic. How are you?
I had that same thing happen to me the last half of the week last week. COVID test in 3 days, and there's nothing there. It's just a virus. Yeah.
Yep. There's something going around. No, it's not Corona. And yes, I'm fully vaccinated. And yes, I know that doesn't matter 100% either. We're not even going to go there with everybody. But, that's what I get for spending the day in the sun in the pool. Finally took a day off. And, here you go.
Wish I could say that. So I was in bright and early first thing this morning. So
I mean, a couple days ago. I've been sick for 2 days.
I mean, the only really cool thing is I opened up my mail today.
Ooh.
And our favorite coffee company is now making a tactical Swatch coffee. So go Black Rifle Coffee. This is not a promo for them. We're not pushing them in any way.
Do they deduct from your stipend if you mispronounce it?
I don't even think they know. The name. I fumble everything that we know, but yeah, I got a T-shirt, I got a sweatshirt, and so I'm a happy camper. The guys at work can bust my chops, but they got free coffee because it's Squatch coffee.
Yeah,
that's not Squatch coffee, but yeah,
5 o'clock in the morning when they're drinking it, though, will they?
No, it's good dark roast. Yeah. So, awesome. We didn't have anything really big last weekend for investigations or anything like that, or field work. This weekend we got a private investigation.
We do. This is a little bit of our downtime because we have some major stuff coming up. So yeah, it's going to be a little crazy coming up here, but just catching up on life and trying to enjoy the summer. Hi, Penny. How are you?
And hi, Colette, coming in there. Colette. All our European viewers are popping up. Awesome. And the locals.
Hey, Lori and Dave. Sorry, I'm going to apologize ahead of time, guys. My voice is really, really rough today. So I have a lot of cough drops and tea. So we're hoping that'll help it a little bit. So
please like, share, subscribe, get that, get the word out. We've got some great guests this evening.
We do.
And I am really happy. Yes.
Just a little bit of business first. So we have to remind everybody. Yes. Hello. I know you're excited. It's like I want to say.
It's been one of those days.
Breathe.
That's my line.
I promise. Breathe. So a couple of things. Just a reminder, you guys. Please keep your eye on our pages because this is the last show we're going to do for a couple of weeks. So for the month of July and August, we will only be on twice a month. Actually 2 weeks because there's a 5-weeker in there somewhere. So I will have the updated show schedule posted soon, but the next show we do in 2 weeks will be a reading show. And this is going to give us all a little time to catch up and to go out and do the other things what we have planned because we do have some stuff coming up.
Well, and it's a holiday week, and go out and enjoy. We have all the high school graduations and college graduations and all that wonderful stuff. So
we need a little time to taste the universe.
Yes. On that note, but go ahead. Yes, I forgot about that. Go ahead.
And don't forget, I know. See, I got it. Don't worry. You're like a little kid in a candy shop. Don't worry. We'll get your friends on here in a second. I love these guys. Okay, so real quick, anybody else who is interested? I know a lot of people said yes. I need orders though from people. So if you're interested in actually purchasing a Where's My Sage hat, I need order because I need to know how many to order because I did not order any yet until we saw how they were going to go over. So Where's My Sage? Taste of the Universe. If you'd like a hat, please let us know. No, I don't know how much they're going to be yet. So I guess we should have
That was a wrong
decided that too. That was like random, huh? I just realized I was like, we don't have a price for this.
Kind of like last week's show.
Yeah, that's all right. So, but no, seriously, if you guys want, let us know and we'll get you some details. All right. All right.
Okay.
So, without further ado, because Michael's like going to jump out of his seat. So, do you want to do the intro? You want me to do the intro?
I will let you do everything tonight.
Really? Are you sure about that?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So, please welcome Mark Matzke. I hope I said that right. And Seth Breedlove to the show tonight.
Good evening,
Hi,
gentlemen.
guys.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're
That was
welcome.
100% correct. By the
Oh.
way, thank you for that.
Thank you. I try sometimes.
All right, let's see. We're on a 4. I mean, not block mark there with all the logos and everything. So
Oh, I thought you meant block him.
I'll block myself. So
Yeah,
no, I'm not blocking him.
I was gonna say- well, some of us have kind of a habit of doing that inadvertently to people. So
Just
by accident,
depends
but,
what family members jump on.
Right. I love your family though.
Bye.
Oh yeah, that was a story in itself. So anywho, welcome. And tonight, the big deal and the biggest reason we're having you all on tonight is to help promote and to boast, because it was awesome and it is awesome, about your new documentary, one of your new documentaries, because actually you had another one come out, right? I can't even keep up. I'm like taking notes and I'm looking online and Mike's like, did you get this? And did you get that? I just like, can't get it all. He does so much. But Small Town Monsters on the Trail of Bigfoot, the Journey. And Mike is going to be one of the guys tonight, more so hopefully. And I want you guys really to get into it and talk about it and tell us all about it, because it's just so exciting. And we're really excited and happy for you. You just posted something, Seth, the other day that, let me see here, since 2019, this particular movie is your biggest release.
Yeah, it's the biggest, like right out of the gate, because I don't think that people, I mean, this stuff gets real boring though when you start talking about algorithms and all this kind of stuff. But just the changing face of film distribution and how it impacts us on a yearly basis has meant that we have not had a movie come out and have like a big successful, like big opening since 2019 when Terrence Guys came out. That doesn't mean millions of people aren't watching our movies, because On the Trail of UFOs is like the most viewed thing we've ever made. It's got like 12 million views. But when the films come out, like actually being a success upon release, we haven't had that in quite a while. So this one, I actually just shared like a graph with my wife tonight that showed like basically every STM VOD release since last year when we signed with 1091, and you see my wife like
Hi, Adrian.
Hi, Adrian. Where'd she go?
She's
Super stealthy.
No, we just
Yeah.
can't come. It'll
She's
be
like
complete.
no, it's like it was this one in terms of numbers, like sheer views and stuff, because that's all we can track right now. It's like triple what Mothman Legacies were. So just on the graph, and like the biggest release we've had in the last year is probably Mothman Legacy, and this is like well beyond those numbers.
That's awesome. Good for you. Congratulations. That's huge though. I'm really happy for all of you. You guys work really hard. I truly had no idea, none, how big. When Mike said, did you see his Kickstarter? I was like, what's a Kickstarter? Just the whole project and the program and everything that you were involved in, everything you've created. But let's back up, because there's a lot to talk about and a lot to cover. So I understand that Seth and Mark, the two of you, actually have a podcast together. Did that come before, during, or after Small Town Monsters? Back us up to the beginning.
Mark will probably interject with the more accurate version of this, but like we met in 2014, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
And STM kicked off in 2015. So Mark and I met before the movies kicked off, and we were doing Sasquatch well before Small Town Monsters became a thing, and then obviously Sasquatch, we shelved it and started Monstropolis. But Monstropolis is kind of a continuation of what we did there. So Mark might want to interject there. With something.
No, that's substantially all correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it. Good job.
Yeah.
You guys can find Monstropolis pretty much on any of the podcatchers, correct? So Spotify, Spreaker, the whole shebang.
Honestly, I don't know, man. I
on the way to work in the morning, on the way home, I know it's on Spotify.
I loved you
because
for a
that's
reason.
where I
That's
keep
me.
my stuff.
I know it's on
that's right.
Spotify and iTunes, and that's like it. That's all I know for a fact. It's on the radio here in Wadsworth if you want to listen to it.
I gotta stop in Wadsworth the next time in Ohio.
You are so speaking my language. I love it.
Drive
I have
around
no clue.
Wadsworth and listen to Monstropolis.
97.1 FM.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about that then. What kind of show is it?
Mark?
Let's focus. Mark, we're going to bring you in because
What kind of a show is it? That's a great
goofballs.
question, actually. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've been described in various ways. I mean, everything from knuckleheads to self-absorbed urban fools. I mean, the iTunes reviews are really, very encouraging usually. But
okay.
I mean, what we do, the fun part about Monstropolis is that it's really whatever we want to talk about on a given couple of weeks, because we typically record a couple of episodes back to back for scheduling purposes. But Sasquatch was originally, that was straight Bigfoot week in, week out, and we had different people on for interviews that were not always necessarily straight Bigfoot related people to talk to, but by and large it was a Bigfoot podcast. And with Monstropolis, we just wanted to throw it wide open to everything.
Okay.
Which, for early on, we were doing sort of themed months and talking about like Bermuda Triangle and stuff like that. And just sort of wherever we wanted to go. And then just unapologetically talking about the filmmaking end of things. Because that was routinely an objection that we would see in the comment sections for Sasquatch was, you guys just talk about your movies all the time. And we're like, well, Seth is a filmmaker, so it's natural. But with Monstropolis, we kind of rebranded it as the official podcast of Small Town Monsters so that we could just devote episodes to talking about the filmmaking end of it. And
I like that we leaned into the thing that was most commonly like a huge detraction for most people from the old show. Most of the people that didn't like the old show were complaining that we talked about the movies. So we were like, let's just do a show where we can talk about nothing but the movie.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, it certainly worked in your favor.
Yeah, we leaned.
And you guys have your mailbag episodes, which are really interesting because you never know where those are going to spin off to. So
for sure.
And what do we do with those episodes?
We read the letters, which those make our lives considerably easier than normal because like we let the people that are writing in just steer the topics that we're discussing on the show. But I mean, the fact is, like, Mark and I have occasionally talked about bringing Sasquatch back, and I think even in the last couple of months we've talked about bringing Sasquatch back. But like, the fact is, I devote a huge chunk of my time to Bigfoot. So just sometimes it becomes a little like, I don't know, it becomes a little bit of a slog to get on a show every week and talk about it. And it's not that I don't love the subject because it's still my favorite subject. And I know Mark could easily dive back into it like tonight. But for me, it's like I think I would have a harder time. Well, I don't know. I'd like to bring back Sasquatch at some point. I got to get to the right mental space, maybe where there's not as many crazies involved in the field or something.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It's a long way
present
off.
company excluded, of course, but
Yeah.
no, that's normal though. I think, don't you think? when you're always talking about the same thing over and over again. I mean, I once heard somebody ask, I forget which singer it was, why do you always change up or sing differently, like in a live concert, some of the songs that people love the most? And they said, picture going on a tour and doing like 2 concerts a week for 6 or 8 weeks straight and singing it the exact same way, the exact same every single time. And they're like, it's about the creativity too, you know, but it gets very redundant and very boring. It doesn't matter how much you love it or how much it is you. You know, you still need to kind of switch it up a little bit, and it makes a lot of sense.
Well, I mean, that's also the truth when it comes to the way we approach the making of the movies, because I think we try to change up the style of each film as well. And a lot of that just has to do with the fact that we're making like 4 or 5 movies a year. And if we were just doing the same thing over and over, it would really be a slog. So even when we do something like On the Trail of, where it's a sort of like a continuing series, and you know, you've got what we're doing with UFOs, and then you've got what we're doing with Bigfoot, even those change from project to project. Like the journey's very different in a lot of ways from what we did with the first On the Trail of Bigfoot. And then I know that what On the Trail of Bigfoot the Discovery is very different from On the Trail of Bigfoot the Journey. So
why was it different? How was it different?
The Discovery, well, see, I start editing Discovery in like 2 weeks, because we're finishing up Rougarou right now. And so I don't know yet 100%, but I'm assuming that what we set out to do is not the same as what we set out to do with the Journey. The Journey was like intentionally made as a first-person documentary. This will be a first-person documentary too, but Journey was made as a first-person documentary that was as much about our trip to the Adirondacks and using that as a narrative device to tell the history of Bigfoot sightings around the Northeast as it was about those sightings and the Bigfoot phenomenon. Okay. And I don't think Discovery is going to be that. Discovery will be, I'm sure it'll be equally personal, but in a different way, and more of an examination, our examination of some investigators who I really look up to, people like Shane Corson and Todd Hale and Derek Randalls and the Olympic Project people, and then all the new people we met while we were out there too. So there's, all these interesting faces that I think maybe have never been seen in like the typical Bigfoot documentaries that are going to be seen in this one, which I guess we also did with The Journey. So, I mean, that's similar, but it's just changing things up from project to project. I mean, like we're finishing Rougarou, and the thing that I keep saying is that Rougarou is just going to immediately gain all these comparisons to Bray Road, and it's something completely different. Like it's not, I don't know, Mark's seen a very rough cut of it. I don't know if you would agree, but it's pretty, they feel very, 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 very different from one another.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, beginning with the setting, but it's not just the setting. I mean, one is in southeast Wisconsin, the other is in the bayous, the southernmost bayous of Louisiana. So it's not just the look of the thing, but thematically they are very different and are saying, sending a much different message, I think. So I think that's accurate. And as you were talking, Seth, too, the other thing I was thinking of was Momo. I think that's part of what made Momo so fun, is that we were trying to do a couple different things that we really had never done before in terms of putting that into a film. So like the movie within the movie was a feature that was a blast for everybody working on it, I think, even though it's sort of the production team, it pushed them to the limit because of the shoot itself. It was so much fun to do because it was unlike anything we had done before.
Yeah, and that was like a big, huge team effort. I've always said that's like the STM movie where it is, you can't really remove any one person from that piece, from that puzzle, or the whole thing would fall apart. Because it was like we had people writing, and then you had all these people that were in it, and like you have, what happens if you lose like Cliff and Bobo, or Adam decides not to be a part of it, or something like that. That one was
your VW.
Really,
You have a VW?
Oh yeah, it's shoot, Georgette. We named her Georgette. She's in my storage unit. I actually just saw her like last week. I hadn't seen her in a while, like maybe a year. She's just sitting there. I'm waiting to like. The thing is, I wanted to keep her because eventually I want to open like a small town monsters museum, and so we thought it would be so cool to have that car as like part of the museum. But now I'm almost thinking of just fixing it up at some point and giving it to Adrian.
So, but is she a van or a bug?
No, it's just a bug.
Okay. Well, hey, not just a bug. Look at Herbie kicked ass. I mean, come on.
That's true.
They made dune buggies out of them after a while.
That's right. That's awesome.
So with the different on the trail loves, you've been to like 4 different geographical areas to do them. So you seen a lot of difference. I mean, being at X with the guys out there, or us up in the Northeast, or the guys out in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, I know the styles are different. Did it kind of go with the terrain and the styles of investigations, or just the idea of where you were going to go? Is that kind of how it moved the storyline for each of the?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. Mark might have more input on that. I would say that every group we've been with is very different from the one before. So obviously the NAWAC, they have a very specific way they're doing things, even removing the idea that they wanted to kill a Bigfoot or take a body. The way in which they do things is very different from most groups, where they're going into one location or they're kind of in there for months on end. The way like Steve Calls and his guys do things is a little more, I don't know. It's a little more communal, maybe, where it's as much about the experience of being with your friends and the people that, you have built this camaraderie with. And there's that aspect to the Olympic project too, but at the same time, the Olympic project kind of takes some of the more like science first aspects of like the NAWAC, and then kind of removes the more like kill a Bigfoot stuff. They're all different. I don't know that I could nail that down to like the location geographically, although I'm sure that is true. I mean, the only movie I've made of all the On the Trail of Bigfoot stuff that we've done, which now are, 3, but technically 4 if you break down, the first series into its 2 parts. Of all the On the Trail of Bigfoot that I've done, the only one that was entirely geared around the place was The Journey. And that was like, we had built that story around going to the Adirondacks and experiencing the Adirondacks and introducing an audience who might not have been to that part of the country to that part of the country. And so you won't have that same experience with Discovery. I'm sure Discovery, I can tell you guys, like, the cinematography and stuff in Discovery is some of the best cinematography, not just in like an STM movie, but in any Bigfoot documentary I've ever seen. I've already said that. Like, it might end up being like the most beautiful Bigfoot documentary there's ever been. And I thought that there were moments in Journey where I felt like it was top of the list of like Bigfoot docs and just the scenery. But the Discovery is less about the Olympic Peninsula. It's very much about that, but it's not about that. And I feel like The Journey is very much about the setting, whereas maybe Discovery won't be quite as much about it. Maybe it's a little bit more about what goes into trying to find Bigfoot.
And this is from Matt from Central Florida Bigfoot. It says, "Hey guys, nice job on the film. Watched it a couple of days ago." Matt's a photojournalist from Florida, and he's our gimbal guy. We have a thing. Matt does gimbal too much. Anyway,
that's all right. I was due for
gimbal.
anyway.
Yeah.
Well, wait a second. If we're going to up the ante, I need my Malibu rum. Hold on a second.
No, PG show.
It is a PG show. I didn't add the other stuff into it. Yeah, right.
So we have a couple questions from our audience. There was one from, where'd it go? It was from Brian.
There it is, right there.
Yeah,
Would you like me to put it up?
yeah. Go ahead if you got it. I don't know why I'm not. I got Sheila's, but there it is.
Brian from Bearded Paranormal would like to know any thoughts on the Kentucky Goblins, and did you ever do a project on them?
It's funny that is a question.
Why?
I'll do something about the Kentucky Goblin. Heck yeah. Yeah, I've been wanting to do something for a while. The fact is, like, Kentucky is one of my favorite states. Mark and I just did like a weekend trip to Kentucky back in when was that, Mark? Like January?
January. Yeah,
January, with our sons, who are drastically different in age.
Very, very. Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, we did a trip to Kentucky, and I've always said, like, I wanted to do something in Kentucky, but I have the project I want to do, I already know what it is. I know how it's going to go, and we just haven't had the opportunity to make it yet. So it'll happen. I just don't know yet when. It won't be 2022. It's probably going to be maybe 2023 or 24. I've actually got our schedule already locked down for next year. So that I'm on top of. But I definitely will do something about the goblins at some point.
And can you just explain to those of us who aren't exactly sure what a Kentucky Goblin is? What it is.
It's not the Bell Witch, also from Kentucky, right?
Okay.
Bell Witch is Tennessee, but like those two towns are only removed by like 40 minutes. They're right down the road from one another. Kelly,
Surprising.
Yeah, Kelly, Kentucky, and Adams, Tennessee are right down the road. Mark, why don't you expound on the Kentucky Goblins for us?
Oh, well, I mean, it's a pretty self-contained story. There was a family in a home, and it's related to UFOs, basically, in a certain way, that there was these sort of, if you kind of see like gremlins from the movie Gremlins in your mind, they bear a passing resemblance to that, sort of these big-eared creatures that
Really?
they were seen on the roof and floating down past the window and things. And someone from within the home, I think, shot at the creatures repeatedly. And it was just like this night siege of weird creatures around this house. And that's their distinctive features, I think, is what sticks in people's minds. And in today, with so many cryptids being sort of pop culture friendly, those goblins have taken sort of a center stage because they are so uniquely strange.
Wow.
Brian says supposedly live in caves too. So
Interesting. Thank you. All right. So
not bad
another
from the
question.
Pennsylvania guy.
Here's another question. What was the coolest thing you experienced when filming Rougarou? That's how you say that? Rougarou?
Mm-hmm. Nice. Nailed it.
2 for 2. Yeah.
Coolest thing. I always have real boring answers for stuff like this. The coolest thing we experienced while we were filming Rougarou was watching. So we took my 15-year-old nephew with us on the crew. And Graydon has never really been... He's been on the road before, on vacations and stuff, but he doesn't spend a lot of time out of the state of Ohio. And so there's a lot of experiences he's never had, including like eating fresh seafood. And so we took him to a, this kind of like hole in the wall down in deep South Louisiana. We were down near like Cocodrie. So we are as far south in Louisiana as you can get. We're literally on the Gulf. Like you're down, there's no further to go. We were staying 2 miles from like the marsh. You couldn't go any deeper south. So there's a hole in the wall crawfish place down there we took him to, and I got to watch him almost throw up watching some of the rest of my crew eat raw oysters.
Yeah.
He tried them for himself too, which was awesome. And then he had He learned how to shuck and eat crawfish as well, which was pretty cool. He had to put the crawfish meat on a fry to eat it. But watching him
I'm
eat,
with him. I can't do it.
watching him eat seafood for the first time was pretty cool, and just I guess just like the experience of watching him kind of experience a film shoot on the road like that was pretty cool too. Because like a 15-year-old getting to be around something like that. If I had been 15 and got to be around a film shoot like that, it would have been, I think, something that I always remembered.
That's awesome.
But that's an important thing to you guys. You have one of the younger film crews, I'd say, in the business right now, correct? I mean,
well, we had essentially what amounted to a director of photography on the trail of Bigfoot: The Journey. Who was, how old was Andy when we filmed? 17.
17.
He was 17 years old, and Andy was shooting as much B-roll and doing interviews with me as I was. So yeah, I mean, the fact is, and Andy's been around it since he was like 12, right?
Right.
12?
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, Andy is Mark's son.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
And then Graydon has been, Graydon and his brother Will have been a part of shoots on and off since they were real young. Actually, all my nieces and nephews have been in our movies repeatedly.
That's so neat, though.
So they've all been a part of it. And then, yeah, I guess like, I mean, pretty much anyone who is willing to work, we will put to work on an STM shoot, because without that, it'll all fall apart.
But I think that's what makes you guys different from a lot of the folks that I've met along the way, is that, even with the journey, is that you guys were a group of friends heading into Dax to experience the Adirondacks. And, Bigfoot was the topic, but you guys got to experience that with family and friends, and and I guess there's another spinoff is when is On the Trail of Restaurants going to hit, because that seemed to be a big part of your role into a lot of locations, is where those restaurants are, and we started doing haunted restaurants and hotels, so I mean,
right.
The thing is that like I grew up traveling, because my parents owned a bookstore, and we did book shows on the weekends when I was a kid. So we traveled throughout the year. And part of that experience growing up was that we were always hitting new restaurants every week or every weekend. And like you grow up always eating different places and like experiencing new stuff. So to me anymore, as I get older, like that just feels like home when I can go on the road and go try some random, spot when we go out. I mean, Mark will tell you it's a huge part of our trips. I don't even think people realize how much of a massive part of what we do it is.
Yeah. We talk about it a little bit on Monstropolis and things, but yeah, it's very important. We have to have at least a couple destination restaurants in mind when we're going places.
There's nothing wrong with that, says the Italian side of me.
Oh, good. Well, and what I never really put this together until this moment, so I haven't really thought it through. But
take my questions.
Oh, okay. Well,
go ahead.
The truth of the matter.
Hold on, Mark. I'm going to mute him.
Yeah. Well, the truth of the matter is, all I'm going to say is that Seth and I met at a restaurant. For what it's worth. It was because we were eating that we met in the first place. So there's a kind of
I love it.
Poetic.
A good restaurant too.
Yeah, really good.
Oh yeah? What kind
Known
of food?
for their pie.
Yeah.
CEO's restaurant in Cambridge, Ohio.
Yeah.
Yum. Okay. That's awesome. Mark, what was it like though? I'm curious, because my youngest daughter, my older two are grown up, so they weren't really able to go on the journey with me with my gifts and coming into my own with what I do. But my youngest is, and she's 14 now. And I know that I took her on her first real investigation tour kind of thing, months ago, and she can't wait to do it again. We're going to go someplace else in a couple weeks. It's really awesome to share this kind of thing with her and to see what she's capable of at the same time. So what was it like for you having Andy there and doing this together?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's priceless, really. We started getting into this together, living not too far away from Salt Fork State Park, which is sort of ground zero for Bigfoot in Ohio. So
Okay.
adding to that then is he's gotten involved with STM. I mean, his very first shoot took us to Fouke, Arkansas, which is the home of the Legend of Boggy Creek film that was released in 1972. So he had seen that film repeatedly. I don't know how many times, but then, as a 12-year-old boy, knew that he was going to the town where that was filmed. And, you would think that would be enough for a 12-year-old kid to like just be able to be there and experience the Monster Mart and experience the bayou and, have people hang around with him that know Bigfoot stuff. But what was really cool was watching him jump into production right away. And I don't know, if Seth, if you recall, like the degree to which he did that,
That's
but
pretty neat.
he jumped right in, got a, like I think he and Brandon worked together on audio, or he would just act as sort of a grip in certain situations and carry stuff. And at no point did I ever say, now, son, you're going on this trip and you better help out as much as you can. That's just something that he did naturally. And that's only ever increased, I think, with each shoot, to the point where, as Seth said, he is one of the cinematographers on Journey and Discovery, and it's something he genuinely loves and wants to, I think, pursue personally as far as he can. So it's just been watching him discover his gifts and his love for things, and to have a supportive community around him who is like going to accept him as one of their own, even though he's 12 and they have a lot more experience in life.
And not looking at him just like a kid that's come along with his dad.
Right.
And it's
really he's never been treated that way that I can tell. Yeah.
It's such a nice experience.
He was part of, the other thing we got to mention is he went without Mark or Sue last August to film. He was on the Bellwitch crew, and it was just Andy. Mark and Sue actually signed him over to us.
Can I do that?
Labor laws.
Wait a second. I went in on that.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Right.
Oh my God.
There's forms. There are forms.
Google it. I'm good.
That's
I can
true.
sign forms. It's all good. I can totally do that. No, but I think it's really great to see, and with your nieces and nephews stuff too, to include them and to have them experience different things, because, even with my own nieces and nephews, having them truly get to the ages that they realize what I do and what it means, it's really cool to see their reactions or to hear them say something about it or ask me a question, or even to notice the things in them myself that I can help them with that maybe my sister and brother-in-law can't. So, it's just, I think it's a unique experience that not everybody gets to have, and it's special. And it's really a blessing, to be honest with you, to be able to go through it together and to have them included in things. So I think that's really neat. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Michael, any other questions before we move on?
We almost missed Sheila's, who's our wonderful
Sheila, I'm sorry. Oh yeah,
research partner up in the adder, which puts us up closer to the next question. But changing the settings and getting the viewers to watch a movie that's different. Otherwise, the viewers would say they'd already seen it. So it's awesome how you're always changing the look and the feel for each of those movies. Each one definitely, folks. And I'm going to put the links to Small Town Monsters in the chat here in a minute. Michelle and Nikki, I see you guys are live, and they made it to their next generation. David, yeah. What happens when I've been up almost 24 hours again?
That's what happens when you wake up, period. Okay.
This is kind of ironic. So Dave is wondering, there's a Bigfoot sighting up in Malone, New York this past week, and it was in a paper. Did you guys see anything on it? And I find that ironic, because when you guys did my interview for The Journey, I had gotten a report of a sighting very similar right in that area. So I just find it ironic, and that person actually reached out to us just before the show. So are you guys planning on coming back to New York anytime soon? I know, Mark, you were just here recently in the western part, which is a great place to get over to Chautauqua, to Peter's place, and do some digging around down there. You know, Kristie heard her first scream down there in Chautauqua County. So,
yes, I did.
Huh.
Yes, I did.
I'll be there we try to get over to Peter's place every year if possible. So we might be back there. I'm not closed off to trying to get out to Whitehall for the event this year. I just don't know if it's going to happen or not, but it's something I really want to do.
The rest of us will be there.
I know it's just falling in the midst of like a really crazy month. Like,
yeah,
that's a really crazy month for me because I've got like 2 huge events, and then we're wrapping up pretty much all of our movies have to be turned over completely to the distributor by end of that month. So that's like, but I would really love to get up there because Tommy still hasn't been up that way, and I just would really like to take him up there, and I think he would enjoy that event. So as far as like just visiting, I'm sure we'll be in New York. As for like making a movie, I mean, I said I would make a Journey Part 2. I would have made it immediately. At this point, there's probably going to be a break before I run back to the Adirondacks to make another movie, but who knows? It might not be that long. Look, if Alex tells me he's doing a Beyond the Trail in the Adirondacks, I'm just gonna be like, okay, I'll meet you up there.
We may have been chatting about getting out in the woods, so I don't know if that's part of it or not.
Ooh.
But
he'll be here in Ohio.
Da-da-da.
This is one we haven't talked about this anywhere yet, but in August, late August, early September, we're actually filming like I don't know what to call it. It's basically like we're gonna be staying out in the woods in Minerva on some really active locations that'll kind of return us to some of the areas of the Minerva Monster movie, and that'll be part of a Beyond the Trail episode. So
awesome.
I'm pretty excited, and it's actually the same land that we just shot the Rougarou recreations on. It's the same way.
Really
Cool.
Yeah, super cool.
Did you guys have any activity while you're filming that?
We didn't, but there was activity in the area the day before we actually went down there 2 days ago. We were down there on Sunday night, and apparently the night before there had been activity somewhere nearby. And I've already spoken to 2 witnesses from that same property. So there's stuff going on there, and one of our crew owns a house on this acreage. So
whoa, go figure. Excellent.
Yeah.
So
That's exciting.
So I am going to, for folks, as we talk about some of these films, and I'm not muted for once, I'm going to put a little link in here for Small Town Monsters. So as we're talking about these movies and some of these productions, you can kind of go there, and it also has the links to the podcast. And there's so many things you guys have going, and they all seem to tie in. So from the On the Trail series, you actually, Alex Petikoff, who we had on, he has a spinoff, which is Beyond the Trail, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would. Yeah, Beyond the Trail is really cool. It's kind of blown up from where it was originally. Like, we thought he would shoot maybe like 2 episodes this year. We knew we were going to do this New Hampshire episode, and then we knew he was going to shoot the tie-in episode to Discovery, which is done. Like, he filmed it. But as soon as he released the New Hampshire episode, he went ahead and made a main episode, and that's actually coming out in the next week. Like, it'll be out by the 8th. So that episode is coming, and then he's filming 2 episodes in July, and then another 1 or 2 in August, plus the Minerva episode. So there's 5 episodes he's still filming in the next 2-3 months. Now, I don't know what the release schedule is for those. The Minerva episode won't be out till next year, but there's going to be a lot of Beyond the Trail coming out, and sometimes it'll tie into our movies, which is kind of cool.
And that's available on YouTube. On your, and I better bring that link up too.
On YouTube. It's totally free. If you're a channel member, you get like a 4 or 5 days early copy of the movie that's ad free, so you don't have to watch it with ads if you're a channel member. So there you go. That was my pitch.
Awesome. And we're going to talk more about that
Squad
later.
member.
Too, for sure. So I have a question, Mark, for you. You're a minister, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk, on that spiritual, deeper level for a second.
Okay.
Here. So, because that's my area and that's where we have to go. So, what's it like for you to be a minister and to do what you do? And to have these different beliefs that can obviously conflict with everything we're taught to believe. What's it like for you on that level?
It is, I think the thing for me is it's not, there's no separation, I guess, for me. I mean, what I mean is, as a kid, I grew up in the church and I grew up with an interest in the unexplained. And where I'm at today is in a sense no different than that. And for reasons unknown to me, even, I've been allowed to live in both those worlds. I mean, to this very day. I mean, I can split time between them both, and they often cross over with each other. And I don't think it would work for a lot of full-time pastors, but it does for me.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that because of who it's brought into my life. And on the other side of that, there's been people, within the church and the church community who I think have felt comfortable talking to me about things that would have been too troublesome to talk about if they didn't know what I'm into. Right. Because they know that I am welcoming and will not laugh at them if they talk about something strange happening in their house, or they see red eyes in the woods behind their home. Right. And they know they can come talk to me, and I'm not going to tell them that they're crazy or that they can't have seen what they saw. I'm going to listen to them, and I'm going to bring what I know to bear in that situation. So I guess, to answer your question, I find myself in a unique situation there where, there's a way that I can reach into both of those realms and hopefully pull them together. And I see that there is a unity there. And I've talked about this at length, and Seth has probably heard me go on and on about this because of what people will ask us in Q&As and things like that. But the bottom line is, if you believe that the Bible is true, then you believe in the supernatural. I don't know if you would use that vocabulary, but it's all throughout it. You can't escape it.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to. There's sort of dry historical reasons why pastors and churches have gotten to a point where they would say, "Oh, there's no such thing as ghosts." But what that tells me is that they haven't read their Bible lately, because there's a lot in there about the supernatural, and our faith depends on things that transcend what we think of as the normal,
right?
Every day.
Faith.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's sort of one way of talking about it.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
So, Mark, do you spend time on the Trail of Hauntings with that team that's out there? And
I do.
Seth, do you bring him along as your
we got right to the edge, and Mike's like, "Nope, we're gonna push you right on over."
I'm bad luck though, for whatever reason. It seems like
bad luck. What do you mean?
Well, I don't know. I mean, when I go in, like the most recent thing I was on, I went in one of the most allegedly haunted rooms. Like, there's a story about a priest who said, "I'm never going in that room again." So I went in there and stood around for, 20 minutes, half hour, and just say, okay, I don't mean I have no bad intentions here. If there's something here, I'd kind of like to see it. And nothing really happened. But yeah, and I mean, then the first on the Trail of Hauntings, I was asked by Santino, who was our director on that project, some of my thoughts on that. So there I was standing in a graveyard talking about, Christians and the paranormal. And, people said they really liked that, but I'm always afraid.
I know.
I don't want to come across as preachy ever, because if people want that from me, there's specific places they can go to
Yeah.
get that.
Schedule times and
Yeah.
same
But-
back channel.
Right.
Yeah,
Right,
but you know what?
exactly.
I think that people who think it's preachy, or when we talk about that, that level of things from the paranormal field and whatnot, I think that that's their way of using a term that they're familiar with, that because they don't know anything else, they don't have a better way to describe it or anything else to relate to it. It's not preachy because it's facts. Well, facts, it's the way things are happening, so you kind of can't get around it, I guess, is the way I see it, if that makes any sense. But no, I think that's great. And you know what, honestly, let's face it, if you're called in that moment to explain something, or someone asks that question, clearly you need to give the answer, right? That's what we're there for. So yeah,
exactly. And I guess that's been the most eye-opening thing to me, is that I guess people know that I'm a minister. I typically don't lead with that when I'm on an investigation or when I'm out with various Bigfoot groups and stuff. I just like to get to know people as people. But inevitably the question comes around, and I do feel that way, that if I'm asked that question, that there's a reason that I'm in that position, and I'm obligated to answer that as candidly as I can, and people can do whatever they want with the answer.
Excellent. Very, very good. All right, Michael, what else you got?
All right. So, during your time in your travels through the Northeast, I was focused on the screen that I have. I will, I, have to keep a second screen going sometimes. So I'm, trying to remember what I was thinking of,
No comment.
So, my notes are up here and everything. So you started, Bigfoot brought you in. Now UFOs have kind of been your next big project. Do you think with the upcoming information on the release of the government documents, do you think that's more of the interest coming, and you think that will push more folks to your new On the Trail of UFOs, Dark Skies?
You would hope. I mean, that'd be great. But I will say we don't tend to take the hot we don't tend to follow the trends when it comes to the paranormal stuff. So in fact, I think like sometimes we're doing the opposite of what most people would expect us to do at that point. Like when the first On the Trail of UFOs came out, it was kind of a response to what was going on at that time. Like in 2020, when that was released, that was last year, but the big hot topic was like military guys and interviewing military personnel and talking to the military. And I don't know that there are any military people on the Trail of UFOs season 1. And obviously that's not like a knock on the military, but we just took like a different approach to it. We wanted to talk to, normal people from around the country who'd had experiences and witnessed things. And definitely Dark Sky doesn't chase any of the current hot button UFO topics, although it does kind of delve into some, in a way, like some things that are kind of coming out right now relating back to like, potentially like UFOs coming out of the ocean and things like that. I think you could probably read some of that into Dark Sky. I mean, I'm really excited for people to see Dark Sky because I feel like we made an honest attempt at really doing our own due diligence in like quote unquote investigating or researching. I think a lot of the time when we make these movies, we do it. I mean, obviously Heather does a ton of research. I do a lot of research. Mark does a lot. We all do research, but as far as like trying to tie things together or follow threads, we don't have a lot of time to do that. And thankfully on this movie, Mark brought up something before we had actually started filming that got me thinking in a certain direction. And so we were able to follow those threads through the actual shoot, and it led us into some really interesting places. And I think going forward, it's going to lead the series in some really interesting to some interesting places. So I certainly hope it brings as many people as possible over to the film. But as for what people will find, it is maybe it's what's needed right now. I think it like our in UFOs especially, the focus is on witnesses, and both on the Trail of UFO series really put a heavy focus on normal people talking about their experiences, and Dark Sky pushes it to the absolute limit. I mean, there's like 16 people in the movie, and it's like a 75-80 minute movie. It's wall-to-wall experience stories, and then we kind of like follow some threads from that might tie all those stories together. So I'm excited to see what happens when it comes out. It comes out August 3rd, I think, is the official release date, which is crazy because it's like it's one right after the next right now from us. It's like we actually had. See, I don't. A lot of people don't realize it, but like Mark of the Bell Witch came out completely independently back in December. We put that out in December ourselves. Then 1091 bought it after the fact and put it out themselves. It actually came out in like early May. So we had that come out in early May. Then we had On the Trail of Bigfoot, The Journey come out in early June. Then we're having August 3rd, we'll have On the Trail of UFOs, Dark Sky. And then September 15th is Rougarou. And then November something is On the Trail of Bigfoot, The Discovery. And then December something is On the Trail of the Lake Michigan Mothman. So it's like it's a crazy year.
So that's a good Christmas idea, right? Because then they can get the whole series, the entire set, right before Christmas. That's great.
And then we jump into the Kickstarter right after that.
Great.
So it's 9:00. We're going to play a quick commercial so folks can get something to drink, run to the bathroom. And
then we can't wait to hear all about your crazy stories with the making that have to do with the making of.
And then we'll come back and grab Ted's question there. So let's do a quick commercial. So I'm going to pull Kristie's slide up, guys. She's back doing parties and doing group events. So I'm going to put that up and then the commercial. So let's put this up real quick. So there's Kristie's information on that. And let's go with a quick commercial. And funny enough, Teddy's in this commercial.
WLFE-DB.com, where you can find vodcast shows, podcasts, and more like Where's My Sage, Inside the Drag Closet, Across the Pond, Paratalk Radio, Just Cindy, and more. So go check out WLFE-DB.com, where talk radio is a whole lot better. Our shows are your shows, and that there makes for a great talk radio.
Hey guys and dolls, this is Casey DeVille, the better half of DeVille Inc., Baltimore, Maryland. If you're ever in Baltimore, stop in and see me and Tony. Invisible Bree, 5920 Eastern Avenue, Baltimore, Maryland, 21224. Give us a call if you're in the area, 410-400-9641, or look us up on the web at DeVilleInc.com. DeVille Inc., where we specialize in you.
Ted Van Son Jr. is a seasoned investigator and well-versed in the ways of paranormal investigation. He is now ready to share his ideas and unique approach with all of you. Flashlight, recorder, and comfortable shoes. Hit the ground running as you follow this easy step-by-step guide to a fun and thorough paranormal investigation, perfect for first-time and lightly seasoned investigators. Think outside the paranormal box. Learn all about the technology and techniques used back in the early days of paranormal investigation. You can find these valuable resources online at Goodreads, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and Amazon. Get yours today.
Hi, I'm Jenna Grover. In the world of fashion, we get lost in the cost. Everyone wants that special piece of quality jewelry, but they can't afford it. Not on my watch. I sell handmade quality jewelry for a fraction of the price, and that includes jewelry made of sea glass, natural stone, crystal beads, glass beads, Bigfoot jewelry, and more. If you don't see what you want, email me, because I make custom jewelry too. Check out my website at gbythesea.com. Also, you can email me at jewelry@gbythesea.com.
You're listening to WLFE DB Radio. Now, back to our program.
All right. That one off. There we are. So we're back from the break there. And I was getting ready to ask a question very similar to Ted's. But our friend Ted is wondering, Seth, does Seth think UFOs and Bigfoot are connected? And Mark's shaking his head yes for our listeners. And again, folks that are listening on the podcast, coming in at Spreaker and Spotify and iTunes and all that, you can, check out all our old episodes. We're there and up and on. Catch the live video on YouTube. And on YouTube, I'll have most of the links posted. So if you're looking for anything we were talking about, the movies, that all the email addresses, web addresses are all there. So, gentlemen.
No, I don't. I don't think they're connected. Mark's just got this really ornery look. I don't think they're connected. I certainly know that there are sightings of upright humanoid figures that seem to be hairy wandering around in proximity with UFOs. I don't know that those are Bigfoot as we know it. I think I think that the large amount of evidence that we have spread out over a couple centuries points to some sort of unknown creature, some sort of unknown primate. I think the way it behaves and the way it acts and the ways conducts itself and the behavioral patterns that people have talked about for a couple hundred years, the consistent patterns, it all points to some sort of flesh and blood creature that wanders around our forests. That's why migratory patterns, small scale or large scale, whatever. That's why those things come up. Those things wouldn't come up if this was some sort of creature flying around in a UFO. Is my opinion on how all that works. So yeah, I don't think they're connected. But I love the stories, and I will continue admiring the work of Stan Gordon.
I was just going to say, you spent time in the Chestnut Ridge where you have everything, and Kristie and I are heading down to the Chestnut Ridge next month. Actually, in a couple of weeks, we're going down there because all the paranormal, all the UFOs, all the Bigfoot stuff. Now, you're saying migratory routes. That was a big part of your thought process behind the journey, correct? With rivers and streams. And when you looked at going over and talking to the guys from Squatchachusetts and our guys here in New York, did you guys notice when you were traveling across, the interconnection between the waterways?
You mean like when we were traveling specifically to those locations?
To those locations, or even from Ohio to, eastern New York State and western Mass?
I don't think I noted. I mean, Mark might have. I don't think I noted the waterways really when we were traveling like that. I did if we were in the Adirondacks. Like if you were in the Adirondacks, I don't think it just stands out for some reason. It's easier to notice, how they flow and stuff like that and how they connect. When it comes from driving to Ohio to there, I didn't pay attention to that as much. But that migratory thing has been on my radar since we made Beast of Whitehall, because Bill Brand was the first person to show me that and have it actually make sense to me. Like up until that point, I always thought the idea of like a migratory Bigfoot was absurd, because your perception of what the word migration means is probably much broader than it actually needs to be. Like migratory can be a small range migratory. It doesn't need to be traveling hundreds of miles or thousands of miles. I think when I heard migratory, I was thinking of Bigfoot, like wandering back and forth from the south to the north.
Right, right.
He's going down to South Carolina when it's December, and it doesn't.
Bird. Snow squatch.
Yeah,
He's found the barbecue circuit.
So I knew that would play a role in the movie. But obviously, I also didn't want to steer the movie in that direction either. So I kind of let the fact that Steve Calls showed up with those maps and was able to show us, the way those migratory routes might work and stuff like that. I thought that was so cool because it played into that, the larger idea that I had been working off of ever since I had met Bill Brand. I mean, one of the downsides of the movie is the fact that Bill isn't in it. Like I wish I could have got Bill involved, but he was having eye surgery, I believe was what it was. Or he just had, I can't remember. It would have been great to have him in there just because he's got in his basement, he has filing cabinets full of reports. He's got his own maps and all that kind of stuff. And, you're talking about one of the original, the original Bigfoot investigators, one of the OG Bigfoot guys. So I would have loved to have gotten more deeply into that, but I'm sure Mark has thoughts on this.
Well, I love the fact that Steve's map is in the film, and I hope people will pause it or will linger on that scene, because that's what it really snapped into place for me, is being able to see that all charted out from one body of water to the other, and he was able to articulate what that movement meant, that it was going from one type of forest to another, depending on the time of year. And Whitehall is just right there, as sort of along the way. It just made sense in a way that just talking about, a migratory pattern in a general way, it just sort of floats out there. But to see it the way that he had that arranged, and it's really great that that's in the film, because that's hard-earned information. That's like a couple decades worth of talking to people and plotting that on a map very deliberately, just right there for, it's not a prop, I guess, is what I hope people will realize, is that wasn't thrown together for a movie scene. That's his work. And it's very meaningful for that reason.
Those are his babies. And I mean, he is very protective of those, in that location at Buck Mountain is very important to him. I mean, that's his sighting. That's where I had the rocks thrown in my face. That's the last place last time I was up there, before I was up there with you guys, I was up with my buddy Tommy before he passed. So, I mean, that spot's, really important for, again, like you said earlier, that communal relationship with folks, and being out there with you guys and having a great time, even though, Seth, you had to pack up in the middle of the night because of the rain, and my snoring and somebody else's snoring kept most of us awake. But it's something we do.
That was terrifying.
What's that?
That was absolutely terrifying, because I woke up, and first of all, I was freezing cold, and I'm not sure why, because it wasn't cold. It was just I woke up freezing cold,
really?
And I put my hand down on. I reached over and just to make sure my camera was okay, and when I did, I just felt condensation on the camera, and I was like, that's bad. So then I realized all the gear in the car was covered in, or not car, all the gear in the tent was covered in water, which was weird because the tent was completely dry. When I came down the next day, it was completely dry, but all the gear itself was covered in condensation. So Adam and I were lugging gear out of that Buck Mountain campsite at 3 a.m. back up to the van.
Yikes.
And then falling asleep in the van for 2 hours. Great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you don't want to drive down that hill at night. This deer, when you get down lower, just seem to show up everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's crazy.
Did you guys get a sense of anything while you were up at Buck? I know we didn't get a lot of action at all. We didn't get action at all. But did you, you've been to a couple different locations. Did you feel anything out of the ordinary than you felt from other places you've gone to investigate?
Well, it was unnaturally quiet, for one thing. That's what sticks in my mind about both of those nights, especially the first night, but the second night as well. And that is for the amount of guys that we had out there. It just seemed deathly quiet and still. I mean, there was no wind. There was no noise in the woods. We would throw things into the woods and it wouldn't make as much sound as you would expect. And when we call blasted, that was the only sound around. And I don't know, I can't say that I've ever been in the woods anywhere where it's been just that quiet, almost like it was soundproof. I don't know what to make of that, but that was my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. The weirdest thing about that this particular spot was just the quiet, which actually really reminded me of X. You could feel the silence in that place. Like it felt like you were engulfed in silence. It was really bizarre. No insects, like really, really unusual. I would say that was, the most unusual thing that we encountered on that trip, as weird as that sounds, but to say that the weirdest part about that trip was, my labradoodles popping up. Just the quiet was the strangest part of that. There he is.
There we go.
But I did love that location, like especially. I don't remember if it was the first morning or the second morning we were up on Buck Mountain, but we actually drove down the next morning and kind of got to see a little bit more of that area and just how, for being in the Adirondacks for like 5-6 days, there were locations that we were at and never got to experience. And I felt like Buck Mountain, we never fully got to experience what Buck Mountain is actually like, because we were in that place for 2 nights, but not the second night, we didn't actually stay there, but we were in there for a while. And when it was all said and done, I didn't feel like I'd actually got to experience everything it had to offer. But I guess that's the Adirondacks in general. Like you can go back 1,000 times probably.
There's so much.
Yeah. I talked to these guys that do this podcast called 46 of 46, and they live there. And they were telling me, like, they live there. They hike miles and miles of forest each week, and they said it's like it never ceases to offer them stuff that they've never seen before, or places they've never gone before, and they've been there most of their lives. So,
and they got some pretty good stories up there. They invited me up just recently, but I'm still trying to get myself back in shape from Hadley before I go up and try to hike one of those high peaks and, don't go too far from there.
I don't know. You did a pretty good job making this movie, my friend.
No. These poor guys are lifesavers for waiting for me. I would have left me somewhere along the trail personally, but
we were all barely alive. So This might have been a situation where, like, if one of us had gone down, or like multiple had gone down, we might have had to resort to cannibalism at some point to get off that mountain.
Well, but you won't eat raw chicken? I mean, come on. So let's talk about this movie. How did you get started, and how did this guy become involved?
That actually is a good question, Mike.
He's like, we're trying to figure that out.
Well, no, I mean, Mike would probably remember more than I do. I know that, like, the movie came about. I mean, the long and short of it is, we were supposed to be making a movie about a boat trip. We were going to take a boat trek up the BC coast and go inland and like do all this crazy stuff on like native lands up in British Columbia. And then COVID hit, and the movie got scuttled, and we went with this as like hey, let's do this. And
Mike's frozen.
I know, I noticed that. He's
sorry,
startled. It's a startled look too.
Yeah, I'm used to him making doofy faces. But then I realized he really wasn't moving.
Yeah, he's committed to it.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, good. So carry on.
Really
Carry
selling
on.
it, man. Wow.
So as far as like how did Mike get involved, I can't remember how. I genuinely can't remember. I think I messaged him about being in the movie. In fact, I know I messaged him about being actually
Hey.
There he is. Yay. How nice of you to join us. No.
Uh-oh.
Thank
and then
God
oh no.
for backup internet.
Yeah.
It looks like backup internet. That was great, Mike. Thanks.
That was awesome.
That's a sticker or a T-shirt right there.
I know. Wait a second.
You got to screenshot that back.
Yeah. Hold on. Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, so, but yeah, Mike got involved because I asked him to be in the movie for an interview, and then like it just worked out to where he was able to come with us.
Seth, did he meet you at an event in the first place? How did you get hooked up with Mike?
I can't remember the exact event where I met him. I know I was with him at the Pennsylvania Bigfoot camping adventure.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if that's where I met him, or if there might have been another time that I met him before that. But what always stuck out to me was that he had told me that Beast of Whitehall was like one of the reasons he got into Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a cool thing. And so when he had mentioned like being free that week and I think what happened is I just thought that'd be cool if we had him with us, because for one thing, he's from New York. Well, he's PA, but like same general area kind of. And I think he knows that area a little better than we do. And, it made sense for me to ask him if he could be a part of the rest of the trip.
Yeah. No, you were correct. He's New York. He's from New York.
Okay. New York. Okay.
Oh, yeah. We're both in New York. Yep.
Okay. I couldn't remember.
Fair. Yeah.
But,
yep.
So it just made sense for me to have him with us. So, and then
awesome.
I think he offered a lot. I think he's back. Wow. It's like he's doing the robot.
Yeah.
Right?
But anyway, yeah, it was great. I loved having him as part of the team.
All right. Hello, guys. All right. Apologies. All right. What did I do wrong?
Oh, you didn't do anything wrong. You're just providing extra entertainment. That's all. Excellent. So you guys, we're just going to keep going because I think this is just going to be an issue for him. So we're just going to snap the funny pictures as he goes. That's all.
Yeah.
So, so you guys had a lot of adventures. So talk, for people who haven't seen it yet, you have to see it. It's a great movie. It, the photography, the cinematography, did I say that properly? Cinema. Okay. So it's absolutely amazing. And just, you can feel the camaraderie. You can feel the spirit, that spiritual, and I'm using this term lightly, spiritualism. You can feel that level of things, and you can feel the individual, aspect coming from all of you, just all the different perspectives. And I don't know, the energy was just fantastic to me. It just was really amazing to me. I just loved it. And I think the whole idea behind it, if you want to explain a little bit about what it ended up being and, why you did it the way you did it, that would be great.
Mark, why don't you jump on that?
You want to? Well, I mean, what it really, and it does come through the movie. And I appreciate the fact that you pick up on it, and it doesn't surprise me at all, but really what's being expressed there are a number of things, but I think one is the healing aspect of nature and being with like-minded people in a pursuit that gets you out of your own shell, as it were.
Yes. And
it's what I'm really interested to see, and I haven't even talked to Seth about this, but what I'm interested to see is how this plays in 5 years, in 10 years, as we look back on the pandemic and how it affected all of us. I think this will really be fascinating document of where we were at mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and
Right.
I suspect that that'll grow sharper, actually, rather than more dull. We're still very close to it. I mean, seconds before I got on the show tonight, I saw a picture that Seth had posted, I think 11 hours ago, of this being the first day of the trip last year. And I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it, because it doesn't seem like that much time has passed. It seems like we're still living in sort of this weird continuation of that world. And so I'm just interested to see how this movie will document that state of mind that we were all in, and what it was like for us to be out last June together. It was like, for 5 days, as insane as the shoot was, it was like things were normal again.
Yeah.
And it was just very specific in that way. And the movie captures that pretty well, although no movie, I don't think, could really capture what it's really like to be on the shoot 24/7, because it's constant something happening.
Right.
And it's fun. I mean, you have to love it, or you shouldn't do it if you don't love that in some sort of way.
Well, you're right, because you hit the nail on the head. It's ongoing. And I was just, I didn't go on a trip or anything, but just, working with the show that I'm going to be on, we were shooting again. And sometimes you go and there's not a lot going on. And it doesn't matter that the cameras are on or off. And this particular location, every room I walked into, just to get a feel for the place, stuff was happening. And finally they were like, we got to get a camera. We need a camera rolling all the time, because there's always something. But at the same time, that kind of thing is happening. You also have the other people talking together, and somebody's got something going on over here. You're talking to the owners of the place, and you're right. It's just it's a combination and a compilation of all different experiences that, bring it all together and make it what it truly is, both behind and in front of the camera, behind the scenes and in front. So it's really, I agree with you on that. Oh, poor Mike is just struggling so hard. Apparently there's a storm rolling in again. Then I know they had issues earlier with the thunderstorm. We did have a question. Teddy, the movie is Small Town Monsters. Oh my gosh. I just drew blank on the proper name because we keep talking about the journey. What I'm thinking of, on the trail of Bigfoot, the journey. So I find it even more interesting too that you had as many people come together from all the different backgrounds. You had and of course I'm going to draw a blank on her name now, and I can tell you every day of the week. Emily. It is Emily. Okay, because I thought it was wrong. Emily from Forest Fleur, correct? Yeah. She's a 19-year-old young woman. And then you have, all these experienced older, right? Even adults of all ages and different backgrounds and experiences. You had Steve Call's team there. You had, just coming at it from all different angles. You had your son there, who at the time was still only 17. It just amazes me how you all were able to click. So tell us about, and this is for both of you, so jump in whenever. Tell us about the experiences and what was going on. And since Mike's not here to defend himself, especially, hurry up, here he comes. Definitely give us a turn on Mike.
I mean,
later.
I think, honestly, what happened behind, it's like you were saying, what happened behind the scenes is as interesting as what goes on camera. And on this one, it's one of those things where we have hours and hours of, content that needs to be cut into production diaries still. So there's so much left on the floor, especially on this one, because we were filming to some extent almost all the time. I would think there was always something going on or something being captured, on camera. So the biggest, the standouts for me there were three, the biggest moments of the trip for me. Now there's four. There's a lot, honestly. But the hike up Mount Hadley and reaching the top was like this weird therapeutic moment for me. It was like a release. I've talked about that, and there's I've seen the like there's a sort of a, when the movie was in the works, I said it was my John Woo movie, because John Woo to me is like the ultimate like hard on his sleeve filmmaker. I don't know if Mark gets that reference, but that's that's my personal opinion of John Woo. And this was my John Woo movie, and that's because I really wanted to push the emotional music, and like some of that is because I wanted to try to capture what it was like to actually be there in those moments. And even things like the color, I just kept telling Santino, keep pushing the green, because like he would keep like tweaking the greens and stuff like that. I'm like, it's not green enough. Like I really wanted it to feel as saturated as it.
Wow.
As it being there in the moment, like you disappear into that place. And I wanted the colors in the movie to really emulate that. Yeah. And so like the biggest moments that stand out to me were that Mount Hadley hike. We did a hike down to the Pulteney River, and that was like a huge, nothing happened. I mean, that's what's crazy, is like, it's not like we're down there getting rocks thrown at us, but just being down on that river and discovering we were kind of like at the backside of the Abear field, and like all these different things, the way everything kind of fit together geographically to like, again, like pieces of a puzzle connecting. So that night, and then there was obviously the helicopter flight is like just a really standout moment. For one thing, I didn't throw up. So that in itself was like
a lot of credit, my friend.
Yeah, that in itself,
like I can't look down, and I'm not even on it. I can't look down.
Yeah, I was so happy that I got to experience that, because that's not something that I might never get to do that again. So that was really cool. And I forget what the fourth was. I mean, it was probably going back to George Henry's and watching Andy eat raw chicken in the
yeah.
But yeah, the movie it's funny. The movie we made is the movie I wanted to make. So like we don't always do that. We don't always get into post-production and realize that we're able to do what we thought we were going to do when we made the movie. But this movie was pretty much what we wanted to do when we set out to make the movie.
That's wonderful.
You know what?
Yeah.
I know I came and missed a few minutes there, being wonderful storm throwing me offline. So it's wonderful we use the system that we use. But what you portrayed is what happens on a Bigfoot investigation, on a paranormal investigation. Some folks say, well, you didn't find Bigfoot. You didn't. Well, you know what? It's more about being out there and experiencing that stuff. And, that's what happens. We don't always come across all the wonderful things, but it's, Sheila's, who's in the audience, we just spent time with her on a paranormal investigation, and it was the meals in between and that exchange of information. So that 45, I mean, when you say you wanted to go to George Henry's for, a hamburger, I mean, that was 45 minutes from when we pretty much drove across the Adirondacks to drive back across the Adirondacks.
Like 90 minutes round trip.
And I bet they're still wishing they would have gotten that hamburger, huh?
Don't try to eat healthy. That's rule number one. Eat to live, folks. That's the most important thing when you're in the woods. Eat to live. But your thought, and watching you guys interact, watching you guys hike the mountain as a team, as the guy in the background, because that's generally what I've always been, is the guy in the background, the support personnel. Watching your team, Seth, work together, move up the top. You guys are ready to rock and roll when you got to the top of the Hadley. Or even, Alex used that video of us, in the morning before we got ready to leave the encampment there, the Airbnb. But I mean, you guys really, folks don't realize that some of the crazy stuff that goes on behind
that was the weirdest Airbnb, by the way. I still think about that Airbnb.
Why?
Because it was like a compound. I'm still not clear on what was happening in that place. What? It was like it was like
it had to be an old mom and pop campground, I think.
Is that what it was?
I think so. That had been split up and like subdivided and then resold, because it did seem like there were little.
Really?
The Beverly Hillbillies moved into the middle and built their mansions right in the middle of the location.
Yeah.
But great view of the lake. Got to give it
right. Yeah, it's all about the lake.
The house was nice. I mean, it was a great house you picked there.
Yeah. No air conditioning.
That's important.
Now it's storming here.
What's that?
It's storming here where I'm at.
Is it?
Yeah.
Waiting.
I know it's going to eventually make its way towards me, I think.
So Sheila says, serenity of the area and the company that accomplishments of doing the unknown. Mm-hmm. And Ted, to answer your question, we did hit Happy Valley a couple weeks ago, which is a really spooky, scary place. That's where I suggested you guys go there, that Casey's Cottage for on the trail hauntings. You want to talk about
wait
it?
To go back.
You guys would love to film the inside of that place.
Oh yeah,
it's creepy. It's
eccentric. It's beautiful. It's deep. It's so many things wrapped up into what you're such a wuss.
You like log cabins, so take an old log cabin, then build another house around it, put a moat inside, and then have all these art students from Syracuse University carve all these medieval characters into it, and then it locks down inside with this beautiful sunset in the background. And a full swamp behind it. It just you guys would love it. And there's Bigfoot around the corner, and it's on the it's right near couple like an hour from the Thousand Island. It was just that's why I suggested you guys need to check it out, because it just makes for a great film photo.
Yeah.
Yes, Sheila, we know it's Sheila's world. It's a
Sheila's world.
Lane it. I'm sorry. So what did I miss? Quick recap. I don't ask anything.
We spent a lot of time just laughing at
at you, pretty much.
That's what I'm here for. I am the Ed McMahon there, the Johnny Carson over there. So.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but more like the Pee Wee Herman. Okay, I don't. I'm teasing. No, we had just started talking after we stopped laughing at you. We just started talking about the journey in the movie. And so Mark, then what were the highlights for you? What were the important what were the big moments for you?
Well, I the thing for me was that was my first time in Whitehall. I had heard about it, obviously. Beast of Whitehall has been a big part of my life for years, but that was my first time actually being at the field where the sighting took place and seeing all of the the famous spots in Whitehall. But one of the most enjoyable parts of it for me was while Seth and Alex, and as they went on the helicopter ride, we had about 45 minutes, 50 minutes. So we took off and went to the Skeene Valley Country Club, which is where Cliff Sparks had his Bigfoot sighting on one of the greens there. And there's actually a statue of Bigfoot on the golf course. Their course logo incorporates a Bigfoot into it. And so Andy and I went there to kill time and get a lot of pictures and stuff. And I just loved being there because we both play golf. And so this is like the best of both worlds, golf plus Bigfoot. And so, we went inside and we got some merch and met Pat Sparks, which was unexpectedly, timely, because then we found out just a month or so ago that she had passed away.
Oh,
so we didn't let on that like, hey, we're in town filming a Bigfoot documentary or anything of that nature. just getting to meet her and talk to her just a little bit over buying a Bigfoot hat from her pro shop was a really cool moment because of, you know, that family's link to Bigfoot in the area, because they never, you know, Cliff Sparks was regarded in that area as completely trustworthy. And the family backed him up on his sighting, you know, till the day he died. And then, you know, Paul Bartholomew knows that family very well. We got to be at Paul's house, go up into his library, his extensive collection of books and other paraphernalia having to do with Bigfoot and Champ and all manner of unusual sightings. I mean, it was just one moment after another.
That's awesome
for me, really. And you know, just getting, you know, little things you were talking about the team, you know, and the team interactions, and in any team there's always intangibles, you know. We could talk about skills and strengths, but there's little intangible things like, you know, Alex Petikoff, over and over we're reminded of his value to the team because of the extensive amount of time he spends outside, and he just knows things that are helpful. Like he lent his trekking poles to me to come down Hadley, and I'm convinced I'd still be up there if he hadn't lent me those trekking poles, because I can climb up things really well, but going down is another story. And so those really became helpful to me. And Alex just steps in with those things and says, you know, here, try this, and it works. And you know, Seth knows when the team is just done and we need to get away and do something just fun, and he'll take us and put us in a different context for a little while. And it's just little intangibles like that. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, and it was fun also for you know, when Seth says things like, you know, so and so is going to be on the shoot with us, like Mike Ann's going to be here for a while with us. You know, there's some reason why he's there. And in Mike's case, I mean, he just fit in immediately. It wasn't like he was intruding on the team, or it's like he was part of the team, like right from the get-go. And that's such a cool feature that, you know, over and over again, we've had experiences like that, where people that are brought into the team for a little while end up being, you know, a lasting part of sort of that extended STM family. I mean, I think of Mike that way as part of the team.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys. You know, and that I just put that link, the Beast of Whitehall, in there, and that's a very important, and I've said it over and over again, is a very important film to me, because that's kind of
you're not even giving me a chance to ask you, Michael.
I know, but
what are your favorite points and highlights of the? Geez, like you really. Trying to give you guys your moment here.
I was trying to get
Michael,
props, but welcome to Where's My Sage, folks.
Give props and then answer my question.
Well, I was going to say Beast of Whitehall is very important to me because I was out with surgery. It was after I met Seth, you know, at Chautauqua, and I sat down, and that was one of the films that really set me into saying, hey, there's law enforcement guys that believe in this subject. And though the Whitehall was one of my first, we went to Buck Mountain. So literally this trip is very important to me. One, to be part of it, but you know, I got to meet Steve. I'm up there with Steve Culls. We go to Buck Mountain as the first place I ever went, to where we sat, you know, where he had his sighting. And that night kind of petered out. I ended up going down to Whitehall, going to A-Bear, going to Putney, and hitting that trip. So for those folks that aren't familiar with that area, it's a beautiful area. I'm a Western New York guy. I mean, I'm in the Finger Lakes, which is absolutely an amazing area. I mean, the Land Rover behind me, that's Chautauqua County, but you know, which is in the western part of, almost in the, you know, the PA end. it's just being with those guys, being with you guys was just enjoying the time and sharing our different experiences. I mean, you know, Seth, from the filmmaker's eye, how you look at what that evidence is, where we're going, what we may not see. And this is a discussion I even had with Matt from Central Florida when I was down there with him. And he's like, you know, what do you see? I'm like, well, you guys looking through a camera lens are going to see something different than a law enforcement guy is going to see. And it's something I say with witnesses all the time. And Mark, you talking to people and being able to talk to witnesses and stuff, and you guys, you see things. So that trip, that hike up Hadley, to me was, you know, sitting there with you guys and taking that in and watching that storm come across the valley was absolutely amazing. Mm-hmm. Being back on Buck after, you know, like I said, one of my research partners passed away right after the last time we were up there, and being that to share with some friends and share that location with some folks, I mean, is very important to be able to pass that area along to, you know, not an area I'm going to go back too soon to, you know, do some quality research, but definitely go up and, you know, sit around and have a campfire and enjoy it. But mm-hmm. I appreciate everything, the products you guys put out. I mean, in years I've had some surgeries, and STM products are what's there. So to be part of it, I mean, that's a big thing for me. You know, so
I think that was one of the things that appealed to me too about having you as part of the crew on that one was the fact that you're tied to Beast of Whitehall and that, you know, that state in general, but especially the law enforcement background and all that kind of stuff. It plays into, you know, where it all began for me. I mean, the whole movie journey doesn't happen without Beast of Whitehall, so you know, it's intrinsically tied to that. So yeah, it made sense to me to have you involved. And honestly, I meet a lot of Bigfooters. There are very few Bigfooters who I would just be like, hey, come hang out with us for a few days.
Yeah, you sure you're feeling okay with that?
Yeah, because I mean, we were supposed to get I was looking forward to the trip going up to Maine to go up to Lawrence Museum and stuff like that. Yeah. I've never been up there. Yeah. You know,
I'm so glad that didn't happen though, dude, because that would have been, I kind of forget that we had even originally planned that as part of that trip. Cause I can't now looking back on it, I can't even imagine what we would have actually accomplished, because we would have been running from place to place. And I mean, we were running from place to place as it was, but if we had thrown northern Maine into the equation, I can't fathom what I was thinking.
Next time, right?
Yeah. But you know, and Dave and Jonathan are Massachusetts guys are awesome. I mean, David's part of Nestra, so you know those guys that help bring me up. I mean, those guys help, you know, point me in those directions. So again, sorry, and I will.
All right, so we are almost out of time. So I want to get one last significant thing from each of you. If there's one thing you would hope that people take away from this movie, what would that be? Mike, you can start off.
Get out in the woods with a bunch of great friends and look at it from the research all the way around. Look at the techniques folks use. You're not always going to find it, but get out there and enjoy it.
Mark.
Yeah, we'll do clockwise. I guess, you know, I would echo what Mike says, that and you know, I kind of say in the movie what I hope people take away from the movie itself, so it's sort of cyclical, but I hope that they will that they, you know, that having watched this movie, that they will be inspired to get out and not necessarily go to the Adirondacks, although I think that's natural. You can't help but want to go there having watched the movie. That you'll find somewhere that is just within your own region, within, you know, maybe even your own backyard, and use that for a place of exploration. But I think that the past 15 months, one of the lessons that I've learned is that, you can exist or you can live through your challenges. And by live through, I mean just fully embrace life, the ups and the downs, the good and the bad, and meet it with your determination. And I hope that they'll pick up a little bit on that, because I think that does come through in what, through the narration, and just the fact that we, in the middle of a global pandemic, went out and did this and said, we accept the potential risks and we're going to go do this together, because there's potential risks every day anyway. So that we just went and did it and had a blast.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What about you, Seth?
Oh, great. Yeah. all the really eloquent answers have been taken. I mean, the one of the goals was to make a movie that would, maybe, man, there was a time when upstate New York was like a vacation destination worldwide.
Right.
And you had areas like the Adirondacks and the Catskills. People from Hollywood would come out there, and I mean, it was a huge thing, and it still is. A lot of people still travel to the Adirondacks and spend vacation time there. But I still feel like it is a strangely overlooked part of our country. So if nothing else, I would love for people to just experience it, at least through this movie, and then maybe that would inspire people to go visit it for themselves. Beyond that, man, I always think that Bigfoot is a subject that is worthy of your time. And so many people spend so much time bagging on it without ever giving it an honest, fair shake. And, I think we didn't find Bigfoot while we were making this movie, but certainly I think if you watch the movie, it would potentially introduce someone who's never been into the subject, introduce them to why, or one of the reasons why we love spending time on it, and why it is such a fascinating topic. It goes way beyond spooky stories and scary monsters in the dark, and there's something much bigger going on here, and it acts as an introduction for a lot of us to places we'd never go otherwise. So if nothing else, it's a great way to spend time with your friends outside. But I hope I just hope it introduces people to, and then, I mean, the ultimate goal, the end game of this whole thing for me was to give people an escape in the midst of a time where a lot of people weren't able to go do stuff. And so I know that now people, things are opening back up and people are getting out and doing stuff. But I hope that the movie, for some of the people, like when we showed it in Canton at the Palace Theater, like a lot of the people that saw that movie that night that was the first movie they had gone to. Mm-hmm. And so that, I mean, the ultimate goal of any movie should be escapism to me. So that's what I hope, that this was escapist for a lot of people.
I mean, we're almost a year to the day where we, got out there, and
it's a year to the day today that we left. Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
And now we're out there, we can get out without masks and everything else. And we all made it through. We lost some friends while I did it to it, but and you did have that, that theater is absolutely amazing. I mean, you gave the theater that you respect, some help in a time when these small businesses are going under too, and that was just absolutely amazing. And
that was,
you guys are in Canton, check that theater out. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So
it's a really cool place.
So what events do you guys have coming up soon?
I have a cryptid bash taking place in Morgantown, West Virginia on August 7th, I believe is what it is.
By Matt?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
I think it's August 7th.
August 7th. I'm on your site there, and yeah, that's a weekend that I know Alex has got champ thing. There's like stuff all over the country going on that weekend.
Wow.
But,
So that's my next big event, and then we've got Braxy Bazaar, which is like the 12th of September, and then the weekend after that we have Mothman Festival, and then we have let me think, we have Scarefest in October in Lexington, Kentucky, and then I've got Cryptid Con and Wild and Weird West Virginia Con, Wild and Weird Con taking place in November. So I don't have much. I have 5 events over the remainder of the year, and those are them.
It's not bad. Wow.
And you still have to produce and put the rest of the film together.
Events, we've slowly been getting rid of events over, like just kind of pulling ourselves away from them, mostly just because it takes me away from editing.
Right.
And so this year, we're doing those 5. That might be the only 5 events we've done all year too, or we'll do all year. So that should be it for this year. Next year I'll try to get it down to like 4.
And Mark, what do you got coming up? Anything coming up soon?
Well, you reminded me of something actually. And Seth, I don't even know if I told you about this, but I was asked to do a library presentation at Chardon Public Library on UFOs over Ohio.
Holy crap! I got to come to that.
Yeah. I think it's the first Monday in November. It's the evening presentation.
Nice.
It's somebody we know through the Geauga County Metro Parks. It's in conjunction with their, Geauga County in Ohio has a dark sky area, and there's a planetarium there with a Metro Park. And so it's in connection with a program that they run through there, but the presentation is going to be at the Chardon Public Library on the square. So that's
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Something different.
Mm-hmm.
That's in Central Ohio, or is that
Northeast Ohio?
Northeast Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wow,
So that's 5
great.
hours, maybe. Road trip.
I know.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I just keep driving to Ohio lately. I don't understand. It was like 3 weekends in a row. Came out with the premiere, and then had the Triangle Festival, and I was out again, and got my first chance to go to Solid Fort. So to find you guys, we've got Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, your webpage. Where else am I going? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Yes.
And what is this? Vimo?
We have a like a group on Facebook too. So we've got the official page, and then we've got a group you can join if you want to like interact and talk and stuff with us.
YouTube, you've got the squad.
Yep.
So great way to see some of your productions a little bit ahead of time and see you guys do Monsteropolis live, correct?
Yeah, that's Squad is where we do all of our like behind the scenes stuff. So you get production diaries, you get On the Trail of Hauntings is through Squad, and then Monsteropolis is on there. And we're tweaking it. It's going to keep changing as we figure it out going forward. I mean, it's been a big adjustment for us, but there's already like hours of content on. I mean, there's tons of stuff up there.
I can imagine. I can imagine. It's probably insane.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
That's awesome. Any last thoughts on any of this or all of this?
I just I loved getting to see Mike's frozen face. That was a highlight for me.
I'll send it to you. Give me your phone number. I'll send it to you.
My apologies. I actually had to go. I had to hardwire everything in. I was going to switch my phone. I couldn't get a signal with my phone. Oh, there, my lights. The psychic, the medium's lights aren't going tonight, but my stuff's going to blow up all over the place. I know it's got to be the storm system. So
fantastic. What about you, Mark?
Well, just thanks for having us on. It's really
of course.
This is fun. This flew by. I mean, it was a really good conversation. It's fun to relive that trip. I mean, we'll just get going on it every so often.
Yeah.
And that's one of the gifts of being a part of this is just having those shared experiences and being able to reminisce on those from time to time. So that is a lot of fun. Thank you.
That's great. Yeah, it was really nice to have both of you here again, and Seth, to have you back. This was great. Hopefully we'll have you on again, and we'll keep in touch and see what's going on and keep up with everything because you have so much.
So on the trail of UFOs, we're looking at next week, right?
August 3rd.
August 3rd.
Yeah. You know what?
Let's not rush the summertime, please.
I need to get Kickstarter backers links set out. So if you're a Kickstarter backer, you might get it next week.
Quick, what's a Kickstarter?
It's our crowdfunding campaign. We run at the beginning of each year to fund all the productions we put out through the year. So we usually run it at the very beginning of February, and we're already planning next year's.
That's awesome. So if you want to be a supporter, if you want to really get involved, look for that as well. And they can find that everywhere else too, right? Where they can find everything else. YouTube, Facebook.
Yep.
Instagram, all of it. Okay.
And you guys got some great stuff going with it. I mean, you had movies to go along, you had posters to go along, some really great artwork.
The book. Mark wrote a new book.
So,
yes.
The book. Yes. I'm looking forward to seeing the book. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah, well, I should mention that Mike was a contributor to that book. The new book, there's a whole section that he submitted that is a description of a Bigfoot investigation that I thought was really, it gave the book a whole different dimension. That's really what we were going for. So it was awesome of him to
really
give the time to that.
We always, wonder what dimension he's from. So
read the book
and find out. Funny thing, I got props on the Pee Wee Herman comment in a private message already, so that's pretty good.
Nice.
Okay, I see how it's gonna be.
Absolutely.
What's the secret word?
Chicken? I don't know.
Chicken,
Moose? What?
Yeah, chicken. No, it'd be chicken.
Moose. Okay.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Best of luck, and we will definitely look forward to having you on again to catch up with everything else that's now going to be going on for you. Congratulations on all the success to all of you, because really and truly it was a great project and one that I think is gonna be around for quite a while. So kudos on for that. Yeah.
Great job, gentlemen, and definitely Andy did a great job. So please, and the rest of the boys, hit at him. So
okay,
thank you
for sure. Yep. Great. Guys. All right. Well, stay safe. Enjoy your summer.
Yes.
And we will be talking to you shortly, I'm sure.
Yes.
All right.
All right. Have a wonderful night, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you too. Thanks again.
Okay.
Well, great show.
It was a great show.
It was a fast 2 hours, and I appreciate these guys. Again, folks, go over, look at the STM stuff. I put links in for Amazon links, their website. Check out their Instagram, check out their Facebook. They've got something coming out all the time. And like I said, the squad thing's cool. If you're into haunting stuff, check that stuff out. Alex's, Beyond the Trail stuff is really cool. And they've covered everything from Mothman to Champ to the Beast of Bray Road and the Bigfoot. So, I mean, really, we're in this everything. Check it out. It's awesome.
So much territory. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Something for everyone.
Yep.
So, all right. So again, watch our pages, watch YouTube, watch Instagram. Yes, I am back doing live events, private parties, things like that, readings. You can find all my information all over on Facebook, Instagram, my website. And also don't forget hats. Anybody who wants a hat, give me a call and I will give you details. Okay. So next week we have off. Next week we are taking off. Yep. We will be back in 2 weeks with a live reading show. Yep. So everybody, please get out there, sample the universe around you, and just really take it all in. Be safe.
And sample on.
Have a great night, everyone.